After spending the majority of his weekends as president at Mar-a-Lago, his estate in Florida, President Donald Trump will be visiting his home state of New York during the first weekend of May. However, instead of staying in his Trump Tower apartment in Manhattan, the president will be at another one of his properties, the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey. In doing so, he would like taxpayers to know he is actually saving them money. In an interview with Fox News, Trump rationalized his trip to Bedminster in a way similar to how he's defended other weekend trips to his own properties, by pointing to the even more extravagant costs he could be accruing if he'd stayed elsewhere. "I love New York," he said, "but going back is very expensive for the country because they close up Fifth Avenue and they close up 56th Street. On the other hand," he said, "when he travels to New Jersey, I have a place there that costs almost nothing because it's hundreds of acres and security and they don't have to close up streets." Trump's logic is like that of an eager shopper who justifies his or her expenses by pointing to how much more he or she could have spent had their purchases not been on sale. He's saving money, but only compared to the much larger expenses he could theoretically be racking up. Of course, any additional expense at all is a cost to taxpayers. There's no discernible advantage to Trump working out of Bedminster instead of, say, the taxpayer-funded mansion in Washington, D.C., that he occupies for most of the week. Each time he leaves the city, taxpayers incur expenses for the security detail that must travel with him. There are, of course, plenty of good reasons for a president to leave the White House. It's just that the supposed cost savings, plus avoiding the disruption in New York, don't justify traveling to New Jersey for the weekend. Trump's travel expenses have been the subject of an enormous amount of scrutiny. Some of that attention is merely partisan ire, just as much of the attention paid to Obama's, and Bush's, and Clinton's, was partisan ire. Still, as is so often the case with Trump, the old conversation about presidential propriety takes on new meaning, in large part due to his decision to spend so much of his time at his own properties, effectively turning the government money he's spent traveling to Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere into revenue for his businesses. Trump's travel expenses comes from the recently passed federal budget, which has allocates more than $120 million to account for the Trump family's protection this year. Roughly half of that sum goes to New York City and Palm Beach for extraordinary law enforcement personnel costs, the former for around-the-clock security at Trump Tower in Manhattan and the latter for Trump's frequent visits to Mar-a-Lago. The New York Times enumerated some of the types of costs that money could cover, such as the $300,000 per day it cost to protect Trump Tower between the election and Trump's inauguration and the $60,000 the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office spends on overtime each day Trump is in Florida.